الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. يا ربي لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الله به الغمة وجاهد في سبيل ربه حتى أتاه اليقين. فاللهم ارزه عنا وعن والدينا وعن الإسلام والمسلمين خير ما جازيت به نبيا عن قومه ورسولا عن أمته. اللهم أحينا على سنته وتوفنا على ملته وأوردنا حوضه واسقنا من يده الشريفة شربة هنيئة لا نظمأ بعدها أبدا. ثم أما بعد, my dear respected brothers and sisters, last Friday evening we had a wonderful meeting titled Trumping Islamophobia. There was a panel discussion, and what I really liked about this meeting was the fact that the turnout was tremendous, and it was almost Q&A session. So many questions came, and many of them are very deep and serious questions, and I chose today to elaborate on one question that I believe in the mind of many of us, and perhaps who have been asked this question from our neighbors or friends or co-workers. What is the source of what's so-called religious violence? All religions theoretically promote peace, love, and justice, yet we can see in the past and in our modern time that so many violence and bloodshed committed in the name of a religion that includes, of course, the religion of Islam. And if you look at the Muslim world, you can easily see so much violence going on, including violence against other fellow Muslims. So what is the problem? What is the source of this violence? Is it the text, or is it the reality, or is it something else? To answer these questions, we have two famous answers. One answer is the Islamophobic answer, who always try to argue that the problem is not with these small, crazy, extreme groups. The problem rather in Islam itself, in the text itself. By the text, I mean the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And of course, they would quote so many ayat from the Quran. It says, قَاتِلُوهُمْ حَتَّى لَا تَكُونَ فِتْنَةٌ وَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثَقَفْتُمُوهُمْ. Kill the disbelievers wherever you find them. Of course, they take it out of context and present it as an evidence or textual evidence that Islam itself promotes violence. So a practicing Muslim is expected to be violent because the Quran they read, the Quran they recite, the Quran they memorize says that. And of course, for those who did not get the chance to study Islam, they can be convinced easily with this argument. The second approach or answer to this question comes from what I call them Muslim apologists, who try to sugarcoat some of these verses, and they did two methodological errors. One, they said, the problem is in the ahadith, because ahadith are not as authentic as the Quran itself, and therefore, if you find hadith even in Bukhari and Muslim, there's nothing wrong if you ignore the hadith because it's not Quran and there's some doubt in it. And how about the Quranic verses that nobody can deny? Well, they try to reinterpret these ayat in a way that is also taken out of context. So these are the two approaches we can see here. And of course, the second approach did not work. It is as if someone wants to deny that there's no jihad in Islam. Of course, there is jihad in Islam. There are plenty of ayat talks about jihad in Islam. But what's common among these two approaches is that they both take verses out of context or misinterpret and misquote these verses. What is the right answer then? What is the source of violence? Simply, there are plenty of reasons that leads people to behave violently. Plenty of socio-economical and political reasons that create a very complex reality, and as a result, violence emerge, or this complex reality produce violence, and this is the base of violence. And then when violence continues, then it needs to code some verses, and eventually it will turn into an ideology of violence. So complex reality, and people sometimes under severe pressure, they became violent, and this violence, of course, recalls particular verses to justify this violence. I'm not suggesting in any way that the text is not involved in this reality, because some can argue you're talking about complex reality. Isn't the text part of this reality? Of course. And therefore, we Muslims, we need to study and investigate these ayat to understand the context in which these ayat were revealed. Because keep in mind, these verses, Quran, was also revealed in a very complex reality and context. So if you don't understand the context, then we won't be able to understand the scope and the accurate interpretation of this ayat. Yes, the text is part of the reality. That's why we need to read the text. But more importantly, we need to, if you look at the Islamic movements, the famous Islamic movements around the world, they emerged as a result of these complex contexts. If Al-Mawdudi and Al-Banna and Khotba and Al-Sunusi and Mahdi and all these leaders who started Islamic movements, if they lived 200 years before, right, they wouldn't have thought that we need to start these movements. But they started these movements as a result of a very, very complex reality that the Muslim world went through. That includes the defeat of the Ottoman Empire after the World War I, the collapse of the historical system of caliphate, and as a result, what happened next is the Western colonization, and then the process of Westernization. Everything traditional has been changed, the legal system, economical, social system, everything changed. The modern state came and adapted the Western systems to replace many systems that used to be driven from Islam. And as a result of this Westernization, some called for Islamization. And the term Islamist came from there. Those who said, no, we want to go back to the root to Islam. These groups, all these groups, have different understanding, different references, different priorities, different goals and objectives, but they all emerged as a result of these deep and comprehensive and powerful reasons that touch almost every aspect of people's life. Every aspect of people's life. And then when this reality intensifies and becomes more complex, we can see also more extreme ideas and extreme ideologies come as a result of that. Now, when we talk about the Bible, for example, there is a famous verse in the Bible that says, "You shall not allow a sorceress to live. You should kill all magicians, witches." This is a verse in the Bible. It has been recalled in the medieval in particular, and because there was a reality, complex reality. So the church at that time, okay, we need this text now. We're very selective in how we quote particular texts and introduce them as if there's no other texts in a particular reality. And they enacted this verse in the Bible, and they killed so many magicians at that time. And now, as Bernard Russell says, that now when Christians read this verse in their church in France or in England or here in the States, what would they do? What would they do if they read this verse? Because this verse is still there, and they read it. But nobody acts upon it, because the reality changed totally, right? So just people read it, and they don't pay any attention to it, right? We can also see in Al-Quran Al-Kareem many good people, prophets, who got very angry. So the anger that exists everywhere to all people, it's part of the human emotion that we cannot ignore. It's always there. We know the story of Musa alayhi salam, very famous, when he became powerful and strong man, and he found this Egyptian abusing the Israelites. What did he do? Musa pushed him very harshly, and the guy died as a result. So we can see Musa alayhi salam, who was not a prophet at that time, but he did what he did out of a particular context, the context in which there was no social justice. The Israelis had been enslaved and mistreated, and he knows that he's one of them. And when he saw this Egyptian abusing this Israeli, then he reacted naturally. There is no verse or text or revelation from Allah to tell him, Moses, by the way, it's time now to get angry and kill this guy. But he reacted like this. He was not a prophet at the second time when he got extremely angry when he was a prophet. We know the story when he went, talked to Allah, and Allah revealed to him the tablets. And he went back to his people to find out that they are worshiping the calf. And he was extremely angry to the point, the Quran says that. He threw the tablets in which a Torah was revealed, and they were broken. Imagine, think of someone who got so angry and hold the Mus'haf in his hand, and he got angry and he threw the Mus'haf away. How would you react to this? It's very inappropriate to throw the Quran like this, even if you are. This tells you how extremely angry he was. But again, this anger did not come as a result of a text that told him that you should be angry here. So, in order for us to think about a real reform, we need not only to reinterpret or investigate the text, but we also need to study our reality. Because it is the reality that recalls the text. As I said earlier, at certain times, at certain circumstances, we recall particular text to fit in the reality in which we live. Now, when you see these extreme groups quoting ayat and quoting ahadith, they're speaking like from authoritative position, right? And some people think, wow, they know everything. They're scholars. They are misquoting Al-Quran as Islamophobics also misquote Al-Quran. They take it totally out of context. And they try to convince people that we are acting based on the of the text. Others actually argued, some observers, that ISIS is the expected result from all this injustice, dictatorship, killing people, sectarianism, violence, ignorance, poverty. When you put all these things together, why should we be surprised when ISIS emerges? This is what you should expect. So reform does not come only from reinterpreting the text, but rather from studying and changing this reality. As someone suggested, those who opposed Cameron's decision to go and fight in Syria, he said, if we spend all these billions of dollars to build schools and to provide jobs and to provide decent life to these people, violence will disappear automatically. Spend half or 1/10 of this money that you spend to throw bombs for people's prosperity. And there will be no immigrants issue, no refugee issue, no violence issue, no terrorism. So this violence comes from reality, and then it brings the text along with it. I'll end with this, know the story of Jesus. When we talk about Jesus, we talk about love, we talk about forgiveness and tolerance, and even we should love our enemies. But even Jesus got angry when he entered the temple, was supposed to be the house of worship, and he found that people, have the tables and they are selling and buying and exchanging currencies. And he got very angry. He got very angry. And you know what he did? He overturned these tables and he pushed people out of the temple. And he told him that God said, I declare that this is supposed to be a place of worship, and you turn it into a den of thieves. So if we don't want to see Jesus angry again, we should deal with these people. We should not allow them to enter the temple and to sell and buy in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم استغفروه. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله اتقوا الله وأطيعوه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Before I end, inshallah, another question also came last week regarding why all these things happen to Muslims. And I said last week, we need to empower ourselves by being more spiritual. So inshallah, I invite you, inshallah, tonight, instead of the tafsir class or the fiqh class we used to have after Salat al-Isha, tonight, inshallah, we'll have a spiritual night. We'll have short talk. Then we'll pray, inshallah, qiyam. And then we'll make long dua, inshallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our dua. So inshallah, I encourage all of you to make it, inshallah, for Isha tonight. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم إنا نسألك رزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا، وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا، وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا. اللهم اجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير، واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث، يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث، يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. أصلح لنا شأننا كله. اللهم لا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين ولا إلى أحد من الناس يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين. اللهم انصر دينك وكتابك وعبادك الصالحين. اللهم انصر من نصر دينك واجعلنا منهم، واخذل من خذل دينك ولا تجعلنا منهم. اللهم إنا نسألك الفردوس الأعلى من الجنة من غير سابقة عذاب ولا مناقشة حساب يا رب العالمين. اللهم أحسن عاقبتنا في الأمور كلها وأجرنا من خزي الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولأساتذتنا ومشايخنا وعلمائنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اغفر لآبائنا وأمهاتنا وإخواننا وأخواتنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وأقم الصلاة.
Brothers, please come forward, fill the gaps.